Welcome to paraglidingtalk.com. I'm Robert Michaels, your host. You're joined tonight with a very special group. These are some of the best people that you're going to find on the interwebs talking about paragliding on Thursday night at 6 p.m. Welcome, welcome, welcome. If you're just joining us in the chat, or maybe you've been in the chat for the last 3 or 4 hours, welcome. And I'm glad that you're here. So excited tonight. We have special guest, Adrian Garza Sada. He's with us. He is he's a part of the ground support team or air support team, if you will, for Marko. Is it Hrgetic?
Hrgetic.
It's hard to say.
It is. Hrgetic. Okay. Croatian.
Hrgetic. Yeah. So he's helping him in the RedBull X-Alps 2019. That is coming up very soon. And so he's got some great stuff lined up to make his, who also is his instructor, by the way. Marko and I both started flying around the same time. And so I'm stoked about that. I'm excited that he's Adrian. I'm sorry, Adrian. And so Adrian and I have been, we're at that about a 1.5 to 2 year mark. And he's got some really cool flights. He's not too far from Valle Bravo, from what I understand, has already had a few flights over there and is just killing it. He was also just recently on Gavin McClurg's podcast, Cloud-Based Mayhem. And that was a very interesting show. I got a kick out of that and listened to that ahead of this one. So we're not going to talk too much about what was already talked about if you've already heard that episode. I do want to encourage you, go check out Cloud-Based Mayhem. It's an awesome podcast. If you're an aspiring free flight pilot, he's got some awesome stuff that will help you to stay safe and keep you in the sport. I do also want to mention the formalities tonight. This show is sponsored by a few different groups. One of the groups that businesses, and one of those businesses, and the first sponsor is Pear Orange Products. Larry's with us here in person. Larry runs PearOrangeProducts.com. Go and check out their website for all types of gear. And last week they told us that they are not only selling wings now, but now they're also selling gear as far as paragliding, paramotor, and all kinds of gear. So go check out their website. There's going to be a bunch of new updates on there. And they have some pretty good deals too, as far as getting a hold of stuff. So you can actually ask Larry questions in the chat. He's watching the chat live, and he's here live. And if your question catches my attention in the chat, then I'll bust out and ask that. So PearOrangeProducts.com, and I really appreciate your sponsorship. He also has he's going to do a giveaway tonight because it's the last week of the month, the last Thursday of the month, and so they always give away something special, and they don't hold back when they give away stuff at PearOrangeProducts.com. So you're going to enjoy that tonight. We'll do that about the halfway mark of the show, just to give you a heads up. We're also giving away some stuff from ppgsmoke.com. If you don't know anything about that, you need to check it out. ppgsmoke.com. They're doing a massive giveaway, almost $10,000 worth of stuff for our show. I got a call from Ryan Roberts, said he's going to give away 52 of the smoke machines for your paramotor, and those things adapt right to your exhaust system and shoot out that super cool smoke that you see in some of the videos. You need that if you have a paramotor. And if you want to be a part of that contest, you need to go to paraglidingtalk.com and enter the contest. So you can do paraglidingtalk.com/contest. And that's how you can sign up with that. Also, recently we have a new sponsor, and these guys have they're called Tri-State Skywalkers. They're, I believe, in Ohio. They're not too far from Sean here. And these guys have, they're organizing groups, local guys putting together groups where you can come and hang out and learn. And so there's a link in the description if you want to follow those guys and get on their Facebook feed and join them. They have a really awesome thing going on. And Brandon McLeod reached out to me, and he said he wanted to sponsor the show. He was excited about what we were doing. And actually we're going to have him come on the show probably next week. That's what it looks like. And so that will be a good show you don't want to miss. So having all that out of the way, I'm pretty excited about this show. Free flight's this is what I got into. By the way, if you don't know, Tony Boyer is one of the guys that I fly with often. He's with us tonight. Sean is one of the moderators for the show. He's a paramotor pilot, and then obviously Larry, and it's probably not in this order, but and then also Calvin, who is POCPPG on YouTube, and he's kind of our motor guy. So if you have questions about motors, he's the guy that'll probably have an answer for you, or at least help you out. So with that, thanks guys. I'm glad that you're here tonight. Matt Minyard in the chat. What's up, brother? Okay, so Adrian, you got into the sport. You started flying in Mexico. Is that correct?
Yep.
Now, what kind of caught my attention? Now, is it right that you're a climber?
Yes.
You started in climbing. So maybe take us through the progression and how you started off. And like Gavin McClurg also was an adventurous, and I believe he was a climber as well. How did you transfer from climbing, the side of mountains into flying like a bird?
Yeah, that's a good question. So where I used to live in Northeast Mexico, it's a really great spot for rock climbing. So I did a lot of sport climbing and some multi-pitch as well. It's a place called Potrero Chico. And I mean, Alex Honnold's done some really cool free solos climbs there. A lot of people from all over the world go out there. And there's another place that's like 20-minute drive from where I used to live. So that's where I started. And then about 7 years ago, I started getting into the high altitude mountaineering. So all the big mountains in Mexico are close to central Mexico, around Mexico City. The big mountains in northeast Mexico aren't really that big. So I came out here for the first time about 7 years ago to climb Pico de Orizaba, which is like 18,500 feet tall. It's third highest in North America after Denali and Logan. And I love that. And 2 weeks later, I came back again to climb Ista. The full name is Iztaccíhuatl, which is a native language. So Ista for short. And that's also pretty high. That's over 17,000 feet. So that was a completely new experience, a different kind of training, beautiful views. There's some glaciers on these mountains, well, the volcanoes actually. So it's really different than rock climbing, but I loved it. And then I moved to Mexico City about 4.5 years ago. So when I came out here, having had already those two experiences, I decided that I was gonna take full advantage of having these big volcanoes around me and try to go out there as much as possible. At that point, I hadn't flown before. I mean, I'd done a tandem flight once in Peru, but that was it.
Was that there in the coast of Lima?
Yeah, exactly.
Nice.
Right in the middle of the city. It's pretty. It's pretty incredible that you could just get out of a taxi and soar.
It looks cool too. I was looking at Airbnbs over there, and they're very reasonable. It looks like a cool place to go and take a vacay.
It is. It's great food. Peru is actually the only other country other than Mexico that has spicy food. It's only Mexico and Peru. So I love it.
Me too.
Good. You'll enjoy that.
Yeah.
Great seafood as well. Because
Nice.
the ocean's really cold around Peru. And huge mountains, bigger than the ones we have here as well. So great climbing, good paragliding. So that was my first experience flying. And at that point, I didn't really, I thought you could soar, I knew that because I did it, but I had no idea about what was possible in terms of, cross-country flights and all that. And then I started to learn kiteboarding when I was still living in the Northeast Mexico. And at that point, I decided, I wanted to try either paragliding or kiteboarding, and I decided to go with kiteboarding. But other than that, that was like 9 years ago, and I didn't have my first flight until like May 2017. And I got into that because my wife had been on a business trip to Lima, and she did a tandem flight at the same place. And she came back and she had loved that experience. So she really got hooked, and she's the one that actually started to look at, where we could learn and do that together here. So we started at the same time in Valle de Bravo. And I had seen at some point this documentary from Cedar Wright called Fledglings, where they climb Pico de Orizaba and then they fly off the summit. And I mean, other people have done that as well. But the really cool thing about that story, for me at least, was that, as the name suggests, they were kind of, starting out with paragliding as well. They're kind of beginner, intermediate pilots. So, it's really different to see, someone who's a pro in the sport go do these things, go on these adventures, or seeing someone that's, on a different level. So that makes it, seem more approachable. And at that point, I had already climbed that mountain several times. So I said, well, at least I know I got the getting to the summit part down. I've done that. So now I just have to learn to paraglide, right?
Wow. Okay. So wait, now go back. You said your wife?
Yes.
Your wife is a paraglider pilot as well?
Yeah.
So what does she think about this? You've taken it to a different level now with supporting Marko and going on the road and doing the X-Alps.
Yeah.
What does she think about all that? Is she going to support it?
Yeah, she's really supportive. She hasn't flown since like February last year because we recently had a baby girl.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you. It's almost 3 months old now. So
Nice.
This weekend, actually, we're heading out to Valle de Bravo, and it's going to be her first flight in a long time. So
yeah, a year.
Yeah.
Wow.
A year. It's a long time to not fly.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a bigger spot too. You can hold on to your hat, man. It's gonna be fun.
Yeah, we're gonna head out there really early and take a couple of sledders in the early morning together when the conditions are calm to ease
Land
into
on
it.
the piano.
Exactly.
I was just there, and that was my plan. And I launched at 10:30 in the morning with the first say 10 guys or so.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just gonna go do a sledder. And it turned into a multi-hour flight, and I mean, I only wound up at the lake, but it was awesome. But then I landed with the flu, so that was the end of it for me. But I'll be curious to see how that goes for you guys. I hope you get it really good while you're in Valle.
Still good over there, right?
Oh,
yeah, it is.
Yeah.
And 10:30 is at this time of the year. You're definitely working most of the time by now. Yeah.
Yeah, it was different, man. That was different from any kind of flying I've ever experienced. It was just the thermals felt weird, just different from what I'm used to. I'm sure you're used to it. That's what you said you learned, right? For the most, I mean, that's most of your experiences in Valle. Mm-hmm. That place, yeah, wow, what a magical place.
Yeah, it is. It does get pretty rough.
If you were paying attention, we had a guy slip in here, and this is Nick Hawks. Nick Hawks is one of the local pilots here. We fly together all the time. Actually, Nick and I started flying together. He started maybe just a few months before me, maybe 6 months ahead of me. And we've been, as soon as we met, we've been flying together ever since. He's been on Gavin's show 3 times now. 4? I don't know. He's a fixture on that show, and he helped me actually pioneer this show. And so I knew that he was actually going to be support crew for Gavin at one point. And so I thought he would be great to have, and his questions would be great for the show tonight. So I asked him if he would come on, and he came on. Thanks, Nick. I'm glad that you're here. I got no audio from you if you want to check that.
That might be a blessing in disguise. Nick, the perfect time to tease him when he can't get back at me.
Yeah, he can't do anything about it.
We can't hear anything.
Gestures, maybe.
Sign language.
Yeah.
Show me I'm number one.
Adrian, how about now? There we go.
Now. Yeah, we got you.
Yahtzee. Tony, what's going on?
Hey, buddy.
Peter, good to see you.
Awesome. So Nick, Adrian, Nick. So we asked how you got in the sport. How did you end up with Marko as your instructor?
Well, it was my wife who started doing the research, and she found his website, and I asked around. I knew a couple of pilots from back home that come out to Valle, when it's the season. So I asked them if they knew Marko and if they would recommend I start flying with him. And everyone I talked to gave me really, really great references. So I trusted my wife's due diligence and I headed out there to meet them.
Yeah, that's a big decision right there. So it's a good thing your wife is a good she has a good conscience or something.
Yeah, she's a lawyer, so she's very she thinks about risks more than I do probably. So she was a good person to handle that task.
The choice of who your instructor is. Yeah, that's good.
That's a big question, yeah.
So you ended up with Marko. You start flying, and at what point did you say, you know what, this is going to be something I want to just dive in completely, to the point where you became close enough to Marko that you're going to support him in the X-Alps? I mean, that's a big deal.
Yeah. So when I started, I mean, I wasn't sure how much my wife was going to like it or how hooked I would get. And I said, well, okay, at least we'll give it a try. And if I can at least just get to the point where I could, fly off of one of these volcanoes, and if that's as far as we get, that would be great. And then and we'll move on with doing other things in life. And as I alluded to, I had no idea about what was really possible with a piece of nylon over your head, right? I mean, I knew you could soar and that's it. And as soon as I started learning about cross-country flights and then these awesome Volviv adventures that people are having all over the world, that really opened up a whole new dimension to the sport for me in my mind. And then started having the first little cross-country flights in Valle de Bravo, and that just showed me that there's so much to learn, and you could do this forever and always be learning. So for me, that was part of the biggest appeal, and then flying off the volcanoes was always a medium-term goal, but I realized there was a lot more to do with that. And so
how much does your gear weigh, by the way, when you went and jumped off the volcano?
So just paragliding gear. So my wing is a light version of a school wing from 777. It's a D light, and it weighs like maybe a little over 5 pounds, like 2.6 kilograms. And then the harness, it's a Wani light, and it's also a lightweight harness, but it has back protection and air cushion, and it weighs also about the same, like 2.7 kilograms, a little over 5 pounds as well. And then the reserve is like 1.2 kilograms, so a little less than 3 pounds. So all in all, it's like like 6.5 kilos, so maybe 15 pounds.
And then the rest of your gear, are you about 25 pounds, somewhere around there?
Exactly. Yeah, with water and snacks and the mountaineering equipment and all that, it's probably around 25 pounds. Exactly.
And that volcano, so you got a cover of a magazine. I saw that, and I posted that on our website.
Mm-hmm.
So how did you go from being a student to, I'm going to hike up here and fly off this volcano? And did you go with other pilots, or was this something that you just said, I'm going to get a wing, I'm going to learn a little bit, and then I'm going to jump off that mountain?
I would have loved to go with other pilots as well, especially on that first one, because it was going to be a quite a new experience. But one thing in Mexico, there aren't that many pilots to begin with. I mean, I think I've heard that in the U.S. it's like maybe around 5,000 registered pilots. Mexico, it's probably closer to 500. Maybe a little more, but for sure less than 1,000. And then out of those pilots, and not many of them are interested in the physical effort of going out and climbing one of these volcanoes. So it becomes a pretty small world. And then with scheduling, and I have full-time jobs, so I only have the weekends available. I would have loved to do it, like with Marko or another like professional pilot. But then the weekends is when those guys are busiest. So it's completely the opposite of when my free time is. So in the end, it just came down to saying, well, probably going to have to do this by myself if I want to do it anytime soon. And that was kind of what happened also a lot of the times when I went and just did the mountaineering, I ended up going by myself a lot of the times just for practical reasons. So I felt comfortable with the mountaineering aspect of it, being alone and carrying a heavy pack. I had done that before. It's just the flight. So it was more of a like how things ended up, the situation. Not really a plan.
Let me ask you this: what are you taking with you from mountaineering to now being a support crew for the X-Alps?
What am I taking with me? You mean,
what are you transferring over? Like, what information do you have that's going to add to Marko's? Marko's not going over there to play patty cakes. He wants to win.
Right, exactly.
What is it that you're going to do that's going to give him his best foot forward so that he can be in first place and win?
For sure, that's a good question. Well, the mountaineering and the paragliding and the combination of doing both has made me a better paraglider and also a better mountaineer. And that's led me to make changes in my diet, for example, and in the way that I train and prepare for these things. Again, since I don't have a lot of time available to train or to go out there, I really want to be as efficient as I can. And that involves, first of all, not getting injured. Second of all, not getting sick. And then third, being as efficient as I can with the time I have to train and making the most of the time I'm actually on the mountain. So I've done a lot of experimenting on these kinds of trips. I use it as an excuse to try and learn stuff. So that's when I started using, for example, my hypoxic generator to pre-acclimatize before going to a high mountain. And that's something I started doing in mountaineering before I started paragliding when I went on a trip to Peru to a 20,000 feet peak.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so what's the intervals look like? So hypoxic machine, I assume, is a machine that you put on your face and it takes a certain amount of oxygen out, simulating high altitude. How long are you on the machine, and how often, let's say, ahead of a competition or just a hike?
Yeah, so there's 3 ways you can use it, and it's basically a machine, and it's, like you said, it scrubs out oxygen and substitutes nitrogen in its place. So it's not exactly the same as being at high altitude because air pressure is the same, but the oxygen content is the same as being up high. So one way to use it, and that's the way I used it for Peru, is that you sleep in a little plastic tent that covers your body, like from your chest up, and you should start using it at least like 4 weeks before the trip. And if you have time, or if you want to, step it up in a more gradual way, you can do 6 weeks or even 8. But I think 6 would be probably the best if you have the machine. But if you're going to rent it out from somewhere, or if you're going to, have to pay for it on a weekly basis, 4 weeks is probably enough. And some agencies that rent out this kind of equipment to their clients, that's what they do. They rent it out a month in advance. It makes a big difference.
This thing expensive?
That's pretty expensive. Depends on how you look at it. For example, for Peru, I shaved off a week of that trip because I was already acclimatized. So, how much you're going to spend a a week abroad, right? So probably just with that savings there, I could have paid for it. Maybe it's like the full kit with the machine plus the tubing and the tent, maybe a little over $2,000, between 2,000 and 3,000, depending on the brand and the equipment.
Wow.
But yeah, and for me, like I one of my time is one of the most valuable resources I have. I only get so many weeks of vacation time a year, so make the most of it.
That's right. I know that world. I live there too.
Yeah.
So Nick Hawks runs a business. It's Paleo Treats. You can go check out their website, paleotreats.com, and they have some great stuff as far as diet. And Nick actually has a really good background in diet stuff and eating right. When you talk about when you mentioned eating habits and changing, did you have to, is there a whole bunch of stuff that you had to give to Marko to say, okay, this is what we're going to need to do now, and you had to change some of his habits, or was this something that he was already doing ahead of the X-Alps?
I've shared a lot of stuff with him about the diet that I use for mountaineering and in general for sports and just for feeling better, which is the ketogenic diet. So I used to follow a paleo diet, since like maybe 8 years ago, and then for me it was a lot easier to transition from paleo to keto. It's pretty similar, and I really like eating fatty food, so that worked out for me. And I think for these long days on the mountains where spending 12 hours at altitude, if you can teach your body to use your own fat as a fuel, it makes I think it just makes you more efficient, and it keeps you from hitting the wall. It happened. I've seen that happen to friends on the mountains or in races where they're in better shape than I am. They've trained more than I have, and they're doing well, and then all of a sudden they just crash, because their body can't keep up with the energy demands of the body, and it's either if you're not getting enough calories, then you're going to crash, or if you're relying on like sugary drinks or gels, stuff like that, that's also pretty hard on the gut, and you can get away with it probably for a single event for a couple hours. But if it's a full long day, or like the X-Alps, which is many days, then that can really catch up with you, and you'll feel it eventually.
Are you going to be in the air at all in the X-Alps?
I'd love to. I mean, I think the priority is going to be making sure that Marko's in the best position to win the race. But if, for example, if it's more efficient to fly down after accompanying him to a takeoff and helping him carry water and other gear, and if it's more efficient to fly down so we can get in the van and go be somewhere else quickly after that, then something that I would love to take advantage of, right? But for sure, it's not going to be the one of the main objectives. I'll have to maybe get out there, stay a few days afterwards, and then relax and fly if I can.
Yeah, you have to. Mandatory. Yeah,
of course.
Hey, question for you, Adrian. I'm going to jump in there, Robert.
Yeah,
please.
So you got the keto and paleo stuff dialed in, and that sounds, I mean, that's pretty standard as people make that transition, especially with athletic stuff, is going over to the fat burning. Is what's Marko doing? Are you getting him to buy into that? Is he? That's always kind of the hard sell, is getting someone else to do it.
Yeah, it's not easy if you're not already on a similar or similarly compatible diet. So I think for some people it's harder, easier than others. Some people like their bacon and their scrambled eggs and their ribeye, and for those kinds of folks it's a lot easier. And I happen to be one of those. And then Marko is for that kind of a palate as well, so that makes it easier. And then there's also, some supplements that you could take that help make the transition a little easier, like exogenous ketones, and things like that. So, I've given him some samples, trying to encourage him to at least see how it feels.
Yeah. How's it going so far? Is he digging it? Is he into it?
Yeah, he when he first tried it, he seemed excited about it, about how it feels. And
have you got him to drink the olive oil yet? Have you heard the Chenard story where he's in Antarctica and like, hey, dude, I got super cold, so I just drank a shot glass of olive oil, warm back up.
I've done that.
Yeah. I've done on standby.
I don't know if Marko has.
Yeah.
But we'll see. I think, and it's also one of those things that going into a big event, I mean, like anything, you don't want to experiment too much. When you're already there, you want to try these things out with enough time so that you don't have any surprises, and also with, at least with the diet, that your body gets used to it and adapts. Yeah,
that's the other big thing, is kind of prepping for what's going to happen over there. Is that what it's like in your hometown, but I found when I traveled, you have to really be cautious and cognizant of what the food is like in different places.
Yeah, definitely.
Especially going up to mountain towns, coming from San Diego, where you can basically get any food that you want. You go up to some isolated mountain town and all they've got is pretty shitty salad and maybe some decent steak. So
peanuts.
That's different,
Yeah, and anytime you're traveling and changing, your diet, you can be surprised. I mean, that's another reason why acclimatizing at home before a big trip is also beneficial. You're less exposed to those kinds of things for less time. Yeah. And I mean, it's happened even like with just changing the water source, even if it's clean water. I mean, it doesn't have to necessarily be contaminated by anything. It's just different kinds of bacteria in there. And I mean, that happened to me in Switzerland, in Zermatt. I went to climb the Matterhorn, and I got there and I got sick, and I was sick for like 5 days, and I couldn't figure out what it was. I went to a clinic. They took blood samples. They checked, everything they could, and it wasn't anything serious. It was just, and the doctor suggested, try switching to bottled water. The tap water is perfectly drinkable in Zermatt, and that was what I was drinking. And then I switched to bottled water, and that was it. And then when she asked me, like, where have you been before? Like, oh, well, Mexico. That's where I live. And in Mexico, you felt fine, and you came to Switzerland, and you got a bug in your gut. So it's pretty hard to believe, but
it was dirty Swiss.
Yeah.
Oh man. So, question on the training side: Are you acting as Marko's trainer as well, or just the support side over there? Has he got kind of a separate trainer? Are you how are you guys thinking about how you'll run that?
Yeah, we are splitting the roles. So that we don't step on each other's toes, and everyone can concentrate on their part. So my role is going to be mostly, carrying gear with him or to him, and finding the best available takeoffs for any given position, and the routes, the most efficient way to get there. And then get myself down again. So I'm not getting into the training part with him.
Cool. Hey, question for you on the keto and the flying. What have you looked at any of what you're doing for in-flight nutrition? I know a lot of folks are doing the standard power bar, like the Ironman triathlon thing, but obviously if you're on keto, that's going to be different. Yeah. How are you handling that?
Yeah, it's a really great question. For me personally, I haven't done flights that are really, really long. I think my longest is like 3.5 hours, something like that. So, sure. And especially if you're on keto, I can manage really long periods of time without getting that hungry.
Yep.
So I think in that sense, it definitely helps. So you can go longer without snacking and then not have it affect your mental performance and consequence your physical performance as well.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, if for long days, like in the X-Alps, so many days probably, yeah, you definitely have to snack on something. And I mean, when I go into the mountains and I want to stay on keto, and yeah, those are really long days as well. So I do have to eat something, and I'll have like some really fatty nuts, you know, like walnuts or macadamia nuts or pecans or Brazil nuts. And those you know, keep me in keto, and they have a lot of calories in them. And maybe like some kind of a bar, you know, like a little energy bar.
Sure.
It's just have to be aware of what's in it, you know, make sure there's not much sugar in it. And there's also like exogenous ketones as well. And there's also these like powder-based supplements that were designed for like people with, you know, really high insulin sensitivities, and it's made from like corn, but it's made that so that it doesn't spike your insulin level. So that could work as well. Yeah.
Cool.
We're about the halfway mark. I'm going to give some stuff away. Sean, are you still with us?
Yes, sir.
You ready to rock and roll? How we doing on the 75 people watching? Wow. This is fantastic.
Let's see here. I got these names right here.
Okay, you got the names. What are we going to give away tonight, folks? We're going to give away real quick Paragliding.com Toe Pro. Mount this into your shoelaces, and you can have a Toe Pro for your filming needs. I'm going to ship that out as soon as I get our winner. If you're in the chat right now, your name has been added to this list. And unless you've already won a Toe Pro, you're going to win one tonight if your name is selected. Sean, pull the name right now.
All right. We got Rollover Rider PGR.
Rollover Rider. Congratulations, Rollover Rider. Let me just write this down.
Yeah. I wrote it down really fast. Yeah.
Rider. Now, Rollover Rider has been watching the show for a while. He's one of the first guys to he's one of the first groups of people to join the shows. Fantastic. Glad that you're here and glad that you won. Reach out to me through paraglidingtalk.com and let me get your information. Show this. Boop. Yeah, and message me in there. So you can go to, not in the contest part, but in the contact part of the website. And I'll get your information and we will mail you out your Toe Pro. Congratulations. Larry from Para Orange Products is a sponsor of the show. Larry is going to take this time to give something away. What do you got for us, Larry?
Good evening, everyone. Tonight, the bag lady has allowed me to give away a windsock. So, Sean, if you wouldn't mind sticking your hand back in the hat.
There we go.
Oh, whoa.
Nice.
By the way, I got one of those. I have one of those.
And they're nice, aren't they?
They are nice, man.
Absolutely. You tell me when, Larry.
Pull it.
Walter from Australia. What? We got somebody watching from Australia. Welcome, Walter.
Plainfield PPG.
Plainfield PPG, congratulations. You're the winner of a Para Orange windsock. Woo. You can reach Larry at paraorangeproducts.com to give him your details so he can send that out to you. What else you got going on, Larry? I know you got some good stuff brewing over there.
Interesting news, interesting things going on. As you know, as of last week, we announced we now sell paramotors, foot launch, trikes, quads, 185 Monster, and all the good stuff that's out there. It's on our website. We also are going to be changing the name from paraorangeproducts.com to Para Orange. Both names will work. If you go with paraorangeproducts.com or paraorange.com, you'll still get to the same site. The site's been changed. It's updated. A lot of new things were added today. One of the big announcements is that our younger son, Frank DeChico, is joining the family business. And Frank's making all these changes to the website, whether I like them or not. So you'll probably see Frank around. You'll see some of his photos on the website. But one of the big items that's coming up is that Para Orange will be doing a webcast every other week starting next month. We're not leaving paratalk.com. We're still going to be a sponsor. We'll still be on the show, still be doing giveaways. We'll just be a sister show. And our show is going to be mainly for motors, not free flight. It's going to be a little bit different format, more for the brand new pilots or people that want to get into the sport. And the reason we decided to go this way is just from the amount of people that have reached out to us through our website, that have heard about us through our audience here, and people that heard about us from the internet, asking so many questions about getting in the sport, what's it all about. So we decided to also start a webcast. And my son Frank will be on it, myself and Glenn Tussing will be on it as well. He's one of our weekly viewers on this show. Glenn's a very close friend of mine who flies out of the same club that I do. So we'll be starting that next month. It looks like it's going to be on Monday nights from the East Coast.
Starflyer said it's going to be paraorangetalk.com. Don't worry, I'll do your commercial for you.
Great. And we have some guests lined up already, mostly instructors, and it's really going to be geared towards the training aspect. And one of the interesting things, my son Frank has never flown. I don't even think he's been in an airplane. We're going to watch Frank from cradle to grave come into the sport through the whole process, training, flying, and moving on and on. So it's going to be quite a nice journey to watch somebody from the start to, from, as I say, cradle to grave. I don't mean grave in a negative way, but that's something that Frank we just ordered his books. He's just starting to read some things about it. He's very excited about the sport like everyone else. He watches all of Tucker's videos, and Robert, he sees your videos and Kyle's videos and just about everybody's video out there. So he's pretty excited to get involved with the sport. He's a young man, 28 years old. And I think that's going to be interesting to watch the progression of that. So we'll let you know exact dates and times as we get closer. And we also want to mention that we still provide a discount to anyone that when they order products and you come from the show, go to the eBay, the e-rebate page, type in the word Thursday, and you get a 10% discount.
Thursday RN.
Right. Thursday.
Is that right? Okay.
Well, anything, she sees Thursday, she puts them all through, and
got it.
Okay. But there are some people that I think have been ordering products and not getting the discount, but I'm not sure if they're from the show or not. So if you go into the site and order something, go ahead and put that in. Now that discount is only for accessories. When it comes to the wings and the machines, well, we don't really sell those with credit cards. You have to call us anyway. But that doesn't apply to wings and machines, just the accessories that we make right here in Florida. But I have to laugh. I'm listening to you gentlemen talking about health and eating all the right stuff. And my machine is in the garage because I'm putting a bigger seat on it. So I have to laugh. Of course, I don't do foot launch. I'm in a quad. So I was sitting here laughing, saying I'm putting a bigger seat on, and they're having health bars. I guess a Kit Kat is not a health bar, huh?
No,
it's
but listen,
not totally. No.
If you want,
how hard are you working out?
Nick, I usually drive. Nick and I fly a lot together, and I used to just come and pick him up when I lived on a different side of town. I would come pick him up on the way, and he always paid in paleo treats because he has that business. So he would give me these frozen paleo treats, and I'm thinking these things are going to be gross. any of that health food stuff's gross to me. Those things are good. And then he would give me like a bag full of them, and I would come home and put it in the garage refrigerator. And then I'd go back there and and I have a favorite one. It's called a Bandito. Listen, if you, sometimes it's forced on you where you have to do a diet thing. And sometimes it's because you want to change your wing size or something like that. Those little treats are good. It doesn't taste like you're eating something that is good for you.
Well, in the realm of dieting, I do have to interrupt you and say the bag lady has been on Weight Watchers.
Really?
She has lost 51 pounds.
Wow, good job.
And for the new year, she's got me every morning in the gym working out with her. It's horrible. I mean, I have to hide everything. She wonders why I'm at the airport all the time. That's where I keep my stash. But she's down 51 pounds, so you have to give her credit.
You need to go to paleotreats.com and buy her some treats.
I'm going to do that.
Yeah, Paleo Treats.
Look out for it.
Yeah, Nick's got a great thing going on over here in San Diego.
Robert, you ready to roll back into training stuff? We got Adrian. I've been kind of shooting the shit in the chat on the side.
I got to mention two more things. Sure. We've got two more sponsors, and I messed up in the beginning. Tri-State Skywalkers. They got some stickers and shirts and all kinds of stuff for their group. Make sure that you go and support them. Check out their Facebook, and especially if you're in the Ohio area, they got some good stuff going on. And Brandon McLeod, he's a guy that you can reach out to. I think he runs that Facebook page. But there's a whole group of you guys in the chat right now, and I'm so glad that you're here, and I really appreciate your support in the show and all you guys that talk about the show and your social media and all that and promoting the show. That's why it's growing. I know I'm not advertising on YouTube or anything like that. So I really appreciate you guys keeping up the, promoting the show and promoting what's going on. And I feel very strongly about what we're doing. And the main thing that we're doing is trying to make the sport safer and just keep it, reeled in and keep it what it is. It's an awesome sport, and I want to see it stay that way. Also, ppgsmoke.com came out with a couple new things. He's got a chase cam that you're definitely going to need to add to your repertoire of cameraing, which leads me to a question. Adrian, are you going to be vlogging the X-Alps? Or is someone in your group going to be vlogging? Can we follow you?
Yeah, someone definitely will.
Okay.
Not sure who exactly is going to do it, but most likely we're all going to participate in some way, taking pictures or shooting video, and then somebody will be uploading stuff on the web. But for sure, yeah, we want to do that. I think it'll be great.
So maybe you can reach out to me after, and then we can check in on you during the X-Alps, because we're going to be following it pretty closely here. At least me and Nick. Yeah. Awesome. Nick, you have some stuff that you want to bring to the table?
Yeah. So we're going to go back to talking about training. And so we kind of danced around a little bit before, but talking about intermittent fasting, if you just want to go over kind of how you do that or how you're using that to support the training that you're doing.
Sure. Yeah, so I've tried intermittent fasting in different ways, and I've also gone, on a full, water only fast for a couple of days.
Yep.
And then, my reason for trying it out was, different than probably most people. So I tend to be a little bit hypoglycemic sometimes. So I really react really fast to sugar. So sugar doesn't really sit well with me. And then it gives me, like brain fog a couple hours after breakfast and stuff. So I wanted to find a way around that through nutrition and the timing of when I ate. So I tried first, skipping breakfast. And for me, skipping breakfast really didn't work that well. My wife does it a lot, and it works great for her. And I find that for me, skipping dinner is easier. So I think these kinds of things, there's no, one recipe for everyone. You have to experiment and really pay attention to what your body, says, and find what works for you. So for me, either skipping dinner, or at least what I really try to do every day is try and have dinner as early as I can. So I have at least 12 hours at night where I'm not eating. So I get better sleep that way, and lets my body do other stuff instead of just digesting all the time.
Totally.
And I think if you're already on like paleo or keto and you do intermittent fasting, it's a lot easier. Or maybe conversely, if you want to get into keto and you're kind of afraid of that first phase, if you start intermittent fasting, it also eases your way into the diet as well. So I think they'll work both together really, really well.
Cool. And just intermittent fasting in general for folks listening is usually just not eating for some certain amount of time, usually more than 8 hours. So folks will do like a 12-hour fast like you're doing, maybe as much as 18. Sometimes it gets into some weird stuff, not weird stuff, but just more extreme with like a 4-hour eating window. So out of your 24-hour day, you're only allowing yourself to eat within a 4-hour window. And all those things can work differently for different people. Like Adrian said, you got to figure out what works for you. What else you doing training wise? You're talking about a little bit of temperature stuff, hot, cold. What's going on there?
Yeah, hot and cold both. And I started getting into cold exposure as training for that trip to Peru as well. So I'd never been to 20,000 feet before, and it was more of a route, not really that technical, but a little more technical than the routes that I usually go on here. So on those kinds of trips, when you're on the mountain, sometimes you have to use a rope and climb for a little bit and then belay your partner, and that involves basically standing around with your crampons in the alpine ice and waiting basically. So, and the altitude also makes you get colder a lot faster. Not having oxygen in your blood doesn't help. And then just being cold also, weird thing happens in your blood where when it's cold, it doesn't really let go of the oxygen when it's supposed to. The hemoglobin doesn't really release the oxygen and get it to the muscles and the other tissues that need it. So the cold and the altitude, it's a really dangerous combination. And I was pretty worried because not just when I'm standing around belaying, but on these routes, sometimes you get some, traffic and there's little bottlenecks in the route where you have to wait for other people to go up or to go down. And sitting around waiting with bad weather at that altitude can be really dangerous. So I started trying to figure out how I could prepare for that. And I stumbled upon something called the Wim Hof method.
Oh yeah, Wim Hof. Back again.
For about then.
Yeah.
So I won't go too much into that, but basically, it's been like 2.5 years since I first started getting into the whole cold exposure thing, and since then I always take a cold shower in the morning. It's something that I really look forward to, and it just completely changes how I feel in a positive way.
Yep.
And you kind of get addicted to it. It's like when
Nick,
you're.
This is what Nick does. What is wrong with you guys? How do you like that?
A typical reaction.
Oh my gosh, man. If I have to take a cold shower, I'm like, this is the end of the world. I can't believe this.
So Adrian, were you following like a protocol for that? Were you saying like, hey, I'm going to do a minute today and a minute 30 tomorrow and 2 minutes down the line? Like, what are you measuring the temperature? How deep are you going down that rabbit hole?
Yeah, so I did start gradually, and then I started doing ice baths as well. And then, I live in Mexico City, right? So here it doesn't really get that cold. So sometimes the cold water isn't really that cold. I guess in the summer, after doing the cold exposure thing for more than a year and a half, it wasn't doing the trick for me anymore. So I needed to crank it up. So I ended up using like a little camping cooler and like some reusable ice packs and a little like rechargeable electric shower head, and so I pre-cool my water beforehand so that I get it to to where I like it now, like close to like maybe like under 40 degrees for sure.
Okay. Yeah.
I got a question for you before we run out of time here. You're flying now at regular intervals. What are you doing now to what are you doing to fly safer? What things are you adding to yourself to be a better pilot and a safer pilot and go the distance?
Yeah, so I think ground handling always helps, and listening to these kinds of podcasts also I think it's a great way to learn about stuff that you might not hear about otherwise. And if I'm not listening to a podcast, I'm reading about the technique.
What books you got? What do you recommend?
Mastering Paragliding.
Kelly Farina?
Read by Kelly Farina. And I always got referred to my training manual as well. Sometimes when I run into something in the air that sparks a question, or if I don't I feel I didn't react as fast as I could have when I had a frontal collapse or something, I'll go back and take another read through that material. I did an SIV course, but it's something I should do again to keep that fresh. I had a collapse a couple of weeks ago, and nothing happened. It was the glider recovered, but it's a B glider, right? So it's still pretty fast on the recovery, but I could have reacted better. So I went back and reread the literature on how to recover from all these kinds of situations, and get to know your gear. Try not to change more than one thing at a time.
Let me stop you right there.
Sure.
What did you take away from that? What do you do to correct from a collapse? Because this happens in both paramotoring and paragliding. Yeah. And typically we're flying the same type of wings for the most part.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So on that time I had a really big frontal, and I was flying in thermaling and in turbulent conditions. So first of all, and I talked to other pilots about this, more experienced pilot that know the area better than I do, and they told me, definitely at that particular place, if you get there and it's not really working, just move on and get out of there, because when you're low, it gets turbulent, and that's setting you up to run into all sorts of trouble. So that's the most important thing, in a preventative way. And then afterwards, in corrective terms, if you do have a collapse, what you do, well, at that point, I put my hands up. I know that it's a glider that's noble enough that it's gonna recover by itself, right? But you could stop it and make it recover faster. It can make a big difference, especially if you're flying around other pilots, and that could mean you don't turn as hard, or it could mean that you don't fall on top of somebody, or that you have more time to get out of where you are. So I should have probably pumped the brakes, quickly and faster to get it to reinflate again right away.
Very good. What are you doing moving forward as far as like your goals, your plans? Do you have something that you're setting? I want to fly off of this mountain, or I want to do this particular hike and fly. I know you're going to be very focused right now on the X-Alps and training and all those things, but what's next on your personal goals?
In terms of personal goals, I want to do more flights on the volcanoes and have them not just be, a sledder down the summit. It was one flight I did where I managed to stay up for an hour over the glaciers. So I want to do more of those kinds of flights, and climb the mountain with my glider. To take off from lower and fly over the summits. That's more, technically challenging than just flying off. For the flying part. And broke my way up to being able to do vol-wave trips. So working on my cross-country paragliding skills and getting as much practice as I can here in Bahia, which is my kind of the closest home site I have. Yeah.
How far away are you from Valle de Bravo?
About a 2-hour drive.
Nice.
Yeah. So you should head out there like Saturday morning, come back Sunday, or I could go and fly and then come back the same day.
Did it change your flying, your mentality, having a child?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I did my last flight from a volcano. It was in late November, and I'd already had my baby, but at that point, so I was at one potential takeoff that I had scouted on a previous trip, and but on this occasion there was a lot less wind, and it was very inconsistent. So and it was really tight, and it was a cliff launch, so I really needed to have stable and stronger air. And it didn't really feel like it was going to work. So, I decided that if I could keep the wing over my head, for like 20, 30 seconds, and then I would give it a shot. Otherwise, I would pack up and go somewhere else, which sounds like an easy decision. But, at that altitude, above 14,000, 15,000 feet, packing up your glider and carrying it around, loose rock and stuff, and it's really tiring. So your mind kind of starts to try to persuade you to take the easy way out and say, just go with it, and it'll probably work out. Just because you're steering away from the hard labor, from doing something tiring. So, and then at that point, picturing my daughter and thinking, if I have an accident, would have been worth it? And of course, the answer is definitely not.
Right.
So I moved to another place. Yeah.
Well, we're out of time. Would you be interested in coming back on the show again? Maybe after the X-Alps or even somewhere nearby the X-Alps?
Yeah, for sure. I love it.
Okay, we'll definitely do this. We'll do it again, and we'll get into more details about what happened. I want to do the giveaway. So PPG Smoke has given us these smoke machines. I actually have a whole database of all the people who have applied, all the contest people. I chose the winner ahead of the show with our random selector, which is tonight's winner is Jim Furman. Jim, congratulations. You won a smoke machine for your paramotor. I hope you have a paramotor. If you're interested in getting in this competition or this to win one of these machines, please go to paraglidingtalk.com and you can get paraglidingtalk.com/contest. That's what it is. And you can fill out that contest, read the rules, make sure that you fit inside those rules, and you can win. Go check out ppgsmoke.com. Check out their chase cam. Check out some of the things they're doing soon. They've got some big stuff going with paramotors. You need to check that out. That's pretty cool. A whole new future in flying. Also, don't forget to check out Tri-State Skywalkers. You need to check out their Facebook page and reach out to those guys over there if you're interested in starting your own paragliding club or paramotoring club. There's all kinds of good stuff that you can get out of having a group, and it's pretty neat. What we've got, our whole deal is pretty neat as far as flying. Literally you can put it in a backpack or just put it on the back of your car if you're a paramotor guy. It's amazing, and we go flying around, but what we're doing is pretty dangerous. And so it's important that we keep each other's back. We're watching out for each other. That was the main thing about this show, is I wanted to have something that we could put together that make it fun and make it something that's valuable. And so I created the show in hopes that we would stir up a conversation, and obviously the conversation needed to be had. There's like 80 people watching at one point, or 90 people watching at one point this evening. And so I just really appreciate everybody. Larry, I really appreciate you supporting the show from the get-go, being our very first sponsor, and your passion for the flying community. I know you go to a lot of fly-ins. I can't wait till we can meet in person at some point. And I love the fact that you're going to take it even a step further and do a show. Let me know how I can help in any way to get your show rolling as well. And if you're interested in supporting this show or any of the shows, take a peek in the comments. There's all different ways that you can support the show. If maybe you wanted to be a moderator, or maybe you wanted to help out financially, you can do it on Patreon or PayPal. And as always, I really appreciate everybody in the chat, all the guys that have been a part of the show from the get-go. You guys are awesome. We're going to try to have Matt Minyard next week. That's at 6 p.m. Pacific time. We'll go live at 6 p.m. if everything goes well. There is also going to be the podcasts. I've created the show and put all the past episodes, and I'm slowly adding them to the podcast. I'm just waiting for the Apple to approve the podcast. For some reason, they're stopping it. So, but it is on Google Play, so you can check that out. That's in the description as well. So, anyways, I really appreciate it. Adrian. I'm so stoked. Can't wait to fly with you. If you ever come to San Diego, let's go, man.
Awesome.
Reach out to me, and we'll get you a site briefing over here at Blossom or at some of our local sites, and we'll tear up the skies, man.
Likewise, here in Valle, we're always welcome.
Yeah, awesome, man. Well, I'll talk to you soon. We're gonna have a short after show, and really appreciate everybody in the chat. You guys rock, and we'll talk to you soon. If I don't see you in the air, I'll see you on the air. Have a great night.